I'm always the bad guy. Well, good night, everybody. Thank you for coming tonight to listen to the Bulgarian presentations. We had 11 students that took the University 4000 class, which has an embedded study abroad. And we went to Bulgaria over spring break, and I believe they had a great time. Well, they might tell you a different story, so I will give them the chance to tell you if they liked or didn't like, and the highlights of the trip to Bulgaria for them. And I would like to thank also Dr. Medor, who was the co-director of the program. I think it worked out really well this year again. Hopefully we'll have many other programs following years. So the first person that will present will be Lascelles.
Alrighty, since I got selected to go first for some unknown reason, I did my presentation on the attractions that we saw at Bulgaria and in Serbia. Like she said, my name is Lascelles Anderson, and that is a picture of all of us at the Philolopolis Theater. Next one. So just a quick overview, tourist destination, the different tourist destinations that I visited with the class, as well as my free time in Bulgaria and Niš. And then a few other slides aren't exactly destinations, but just the things that I was able to experience that I thought would be nice for other tourists to try to experience at least once. Oh, wrong button. So a quick overview, we visited 2 countries, 5 cities, and 1 village was toured. And then like a quick fact, I know me and, he's not here right now, but me and Temple was keeping track of how many steps we was taking. So on average, everybody should have taken 120,000 to 145,000 total steps during the whole 10 or 9 days that we was over there, not including layovers in Turkey. Oh, wrong button again. All right, so the first place we visited was Sofia. That building right there at the very top is the St. Alexander Nevsky's Cathedral. It was built in 1882 and completed in 1912, and it was to honor the fallen soldiers who died during the Russian-Turkish invasion, who tried to help liberate Bulgaria. It is free to enter. I'm going to be going over the prices. I didn't include the prices on the slides, but it's free to enter the main cathedral of the St. Alexander Nevsky's. And then the place on the bottom is the National Palace of Culture. It opened in 1981 to celebrate the 1300th anniversary of Bulgaria. And its main hall can seat up to 3,000 people. They do concerts, hold movies, events, and one night when we was walking by, they was holding like a yoga class or a dance class or something. So they just do different things inside of that palace, right? Well, yeah, the palace right there. Oh, wrong button again. So another thing is that video right there is up under the St. Alexander Nevsky's Cathedral. It's like an art museum that we went into. I think it was $3, well, 3 levs to enter for a student. That was established in 1965, and that was for art covers periods from the 4th century to the 19th century. This one right here at the very top right is the Serdica complex. It's up under the main city. I think it's like a few blocks away from the main part, or the main part I'm going to be talking about in just a few seconds. And in this part, you can see ancient houses, churches, and other figures that I have a picture of at the end of the slide. And this part right here is mostly where the houses and like a market area was in that little left-hand corner right there. This picture down here at the bottom is the Vitosha Mountain, which its highest peak is 7,520 feet. You're able to go skiing during the winter, and you're able to hike it during the summer. I'm not sure how much the prices was to go sledding, but a few of the students did go sledding down the mountains. Oh, it was 10 left to go sledding for an hour. Okay, well, 10 left to go sledding for an hour, and some other students just walked around. They do have a nice view. I didn't include the view of the mountain, of the city in here. But if you want to see it, just talk to me after the show, and I can show you it. And then this one right here is the Vitosha Boulevard. It's 1.7 miles long. It has different shops, restaurants, as well as bars. They also have tattoo areas or tattoo parlors, from what I remember. And the shops is like a indoor-outdoor shop, so you can either eat inside or you can eat outside in like a covered area or a little covered gazebo, if that makes sense. And then the other shops that they mostly have is like bookstores, clothing areas, as well as souvenir shops. The next place we visit was Niš, Serbia. This right here is the archaeological site of Mediana. It was built between the 3rd century and the beginning of the 4th century, and it contained villas, military barracks, and a church. So this part right here is just basically like the villas, and inside that building that you see in the video is what you will see right there. That was the main villa where the king, I believe, or monarch of the time met at. And right there in the center, they had like a little fountain that they got from the Niš River. And in that fountain was used to basically make sure that nobody outside of the villa would be able to hear their conversation. And then inside the little glass stadiums is just figures of the different kings and queens that Niš had throughout the time period. The next part is the Skull Tower. It was built in 1809 and it originally contained 952 skulls. Right now I think it contains less than 150 skulls. These are real people's skulls. It's the skulls of the rebels who died while they was fighting the Turkish or Ottoman Empire. It contains less skulls now because once Niš was liberated from the Ottoman Empire, they allowed their family members to come and pick out the skulls that they believed was their loved ones. So that's why it's less in there. The next one at the top left right there is the Niš River. It's basically just a river that runs through Niš in Bulgaria. It's 152 miles long. And really what you just do is you can just walk up and down the river. Not much to do, it's like a few shops and everything, but it's just really like a walking path that you can go up and down. And then the bottom down here is the Niš Fortress. It was built in 1719 and between 1719 and 1723. And then this fortress, you can find different shops, cafes. You can find an old church, I believe a cemetery or at least tombstones, as well as souvenir shops and a, what is it called? And my mind is going blank, a stage for where they have film festivals as well as concerts. And in total, the fortress itself covers about 54 different acres and it's open 24 hours. So if you are able to go to Niš and you want to walk around, that would be a good place to walk around. The next place was Plovdiv. One second. Okay, there you go. So the top one is the Theater of Philippopolis. It was built between 98 and 17 AD, which is basically the years after Christ was born. And the theater itself was buried under sand, I believe, is what they said. Like the Ottomans wanted to completely destroy Bulgarian history and everything and wipe it off the book, so they buried it under sand. And then that building, one second, that red and yellow building that you can see up there is the music university. And they was planning on building out the university when one of the excavators fell through the ground, and that's when they discovered that it was a whole ancient theater there. The theater itself can seat about 3,500 people, and they're still using it to this day for film festivals, concerts, and everything, as well as events from the music university. And then the next bottom video down there is the large ancient basilica, which is basically just a church. And then this church, it was built over a couple of times by different religions, so Christianity, Muslims, and I believe Jewish are some of the people who built over the church. So the church was just basically built over different times. And it's also the largest early Christian church discovered in Bulgaria. And it was discovered, well, it was built in the 4th century AD. And right there, you can see how many times it was built over, so you can just see like the different palettes. So right here, you see one design, and then the next up under that one, you see another design just showing like how many different people built on top of that church. And then this is just like an overview of how the stage looked from the theater. Plovdiv some more. There go the video. This is the Stadium of Philippopolis. It is at least one of my favorite attractions. It's up under the main street in Plovdiv. And that's how the stadium's supposed to look right there in the top left. And then at the top right here is the end of it when you come up to this part at the top up there. And if you go into different stores, so like H&M, the video that you see right there, and this video is from the H&M. You can just pay $2 lev, I think. And you can just go down there and you can just walk around and see the ancient stadium. And then right there, that picture to the left right there is their aqueducts, which is basically like their sewer system. They was pulling the water from the mountains, and that's near Plovdiv. The next one is in Stara Zagora. So this is the Museum of Neolithic Dwellings. That right there is a house, one of the most preserved houses that they have from that time period in Europe. The house was made out of clay and it was burnt, so when it was burnt, basically helped the clay harden and just stay how it was. They say it was a 2-story house with 2 different families living inside of it. If you ask me and the other students, I think everybody would agree that it wasn't look like it was big enough to have be a 2-story house with 2 families. But the different things that we saw inside of it was like a furnace. I believe they still had some different tools inside of the house. And up under the house, there was like another subsection, which you could see like different figurines and jewelries inside of it. So the figurines is just, they call it animals, but the tour guide told us that she believes it's aliens. And then in that picture right there, it's like the different jewelry and labor tools and pots that they use to like cook food in, make medicine and different stuff like that. So to keep on going with Stara Zagora, we're at the Regional Museum of History. And each floor in the museum, it was 3 floors. It tells a different time period for the different time in Bulgaria. The first time period dates back to the 1st century AD, or after Jesus was born. And right there is the different tools. So like right here, you can see some spoons. Spoons or just different things that they use to cook. I think one of these is a fork. Somewhere down here is a fork. So just different utensils that they use. The next one is Veliko Trnava. 1 second. And we visited in the Tsarovets fortress, which was built between the 5th and 7th century AD. And that top picture right there, well, the top video right there is from the throne room, or what they believed to be the throne room at the time. And this video right here is the outside of the fortress. So basically the fortress completely covered around the mountain on top. So we went in the main exit, but there is also different entrances that you can go into to walk around. And then down here, the 2 pictures at the bottom is from the Wax Museum. There is over 29 sculptures distributed between different floors. So the first one would be the king and queen of Bulgaria during the time of the 5th century, or at least how they depicted that their throne room would look. And then the bottom one down there to the left would be like a battle where the Bulgarians was giving up to the Ottoman Empire. All right, so these are some pictures that I took that I said about tourist attractions. So right there at the top left, a couple of us took pictures with pigeons, I think. At least colored pigeons. We don't know what kind of birds they were. Who? Or doves, birds. This picture right here is how they believe that the fortress looked before it was completely destroyed because it was attacked so many times over. This picture right here is from the small basilica. So in Plovdiv, I showed you the large basilica. This is the small basilica that was a few blocks away from the big basilica. And in this one, it was really just a Christianity, so they never built over top of this one. And then this right here is basically where they was doing like baptizing. So this is where they would baptize everybody at. That very picture on the left right there is from inside the cathedral that was inside of the fortress. That was just one of the paintings that you could see inside of the cathedral. And the picture next to it is how they believe that the cathedral looked before it was destroyed. And then this picture right here is just some of the hand-painted and hand-placed mosaics that you could see inside of the National Museum in Sofia. Stara Zagora. And then that's it. Any questions? Nope. All right, thank you.
Okay, don't make me call people. Just, so
All right, good evening, everyone. I am RJ, and today my presentation is the culinary crossroads, and I'm basically comparing American cuisine with Bulgarian cuisine. But I did want to start off by giving a special thanks to Dr. Yordanova and Dr. Metter for providing me with this once-in-a-lifetime experience. I would 110% do it again. I love food for obvious reasons, so you can see why I covered this topic, and yeah, I'm excited. I'm on 10 right now, sorry. All right, so we're gonna start off with the Shopska salad and the Caesar salad. They're very both famous salads in each country, but Bulgarians, they're a little more on the healthy side, so it wasn't your normal salad like with lettuce and other ingredients. It was basically a vegetable-based salad. It had cucumbers, tomatoes, I can't remember, onions, and it was covered in feta cheese, and you could do oil and vinegar, versus our famous Caesar salad with, you can either have fried or grilled chicken with their Caesar dressing, cheese. Basically the unhealthy version, you know, and that defeats the purpose of a salad, but you can see the difference between Bulgarian cuisine and American cuisine. The second slide we have is the assorted meat tray, and this is particularly my favorite meal of the trip. This kind of reminded me of a place called Sonny's Barbecue, so that's why it kind of was home for me. So they all have assorted meats. The one up top, I know they had some type of liver, chicken, pork. It was all different types of meats. I tried most of them, but you know, I'm not trying anyone's liver. And then on bottom, we can see there's ribs, sausages, and things that Americans do for their barbecue. Number 3, we have a stew molded in bread, like a chicken stew versus our chicken pot pie. You can see the similarities, and a lot of the meals in Bulgaria, you can tell that they have the Ottoman influence because a lot of their meals have bread with them. So it was actually kind of good. It was like a pot stove, just in bread. I kind of enjoyed it. Now we have cheesecake. And like I said earlier, Bulgarians are a lot healthier. So theirs were a little more bitter and less sugary compared to American cheesecake. And it has like a lighter and less dense compared to American cheesecake. As you can see, we have the Oreos, all those unhealthy ingredients. And you see just like 3 little drips of syrup, and that's good enough for you. All right, now we have kebabche versus a hot dog. So actually, the difference between kebabche is actually cut up meat churned into a hot dog shape, versus a hot dog is usually like processed meats infused in a hot dog bun. And whereas kebabche can be served in different forms, rather than a hot dog bun and a salad, there's like many different ways. They utilize their meats in several ways compared to American cuisine. All right. And actually, this is my second favorite, tomato soup. And I actually didn't like tomato soup before this trip. And actually, I like that version of tomato soup versus our clam chowder. I feel like they're both classic soups, you know, very well renowned in both countries. And I feel like tomato soup is light and tangy, whereas clam chowder is more of like a thick and savory and more filling soup rather than tomato. And then we have gelato versus ice cream. Right here, that's gelato. I'm not sure what this one down here is. I think it may be gelato too, but it was like, I know it wasn't ice cream because it had a different texture, but I wanted to include it to also show the differences in the way that they prepare their ice cream or gelato. And this one comes in third place, where we had stuffed chicken. It was like chicken, cheese, stuffed breading with coleslaw. It kind of had a cabbage taste to it though, versus our chicken and cheese stromboli. They're kind of similar because they're wrapped in bread dough, but they're kind of prepared a little bit differently. And they have their home, traditional countries' home regional ingredients. That's the difference. And now we have flan versus creme brulee. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't the biggest fan of the flan, but you know, you can't say you don't like it unless you've tried it. So, been there, done that. However, I did enjoy the syrup that it came with. It was very, very rich and sweet. It was caramel. And then now we have a gyro versus a shawarma. They are both very popular street foods, and they were prepared very differently, because I know there's a gyro city down in downtown Americus, but the one in Bulgaria, you get the full experience. You get to watch them prepare it for you. It was very fast, very fresh, hot, and I enjoyed that gyro. And I feel like they highlight the cultural exchanges and culinary adaptations, with gyros reflecting the Greek influences and shawarma reflecting the Middle Eastern flavors. Thank you for your time and attention. Do you have any questions? No? Perfect. Have a great one.
Whoa. What's up? Do you want to come up? Hey. I know you on a time crunch. I could easily. Okay. Bet. Good evening, everybody. How's everybody doing? Okay. Well, my name is Zahar Shah, and I will be presenting the consumer culture of Bulgaria. And for brief context, when I mean consumer culture, I mean how what they basically buy influences how they live, basically. So I'll be touching more on that and comparing that to what we buy in America influences how we live. So first things first. So I had did a presentation earlier on this in, I believe February or early March. And my initial assumptions due to my research was that Bulgaria is a culture that prides themselves on their history. They find extreme value in their natural resources. They're also very religious with all the temples. That was my initial assumptions. And they know how to have a good time or seek a thrill. But turns out I was very wrong. And I discovered a lot of different things while I was over there. For one, most Bulgarians have a culture of healthy eating habits. Bulgarians typically consume juices, yogurts with less processed sugars, which I came to the realization of when I was staying in a hotel in Sofia called Hotel Downtown. And basically, like, we had breakfast there, and I tasted the apple juice, the orange juice, and like strawberry yogurt, and I noticed how bitter it was, how it wasn't very sweet, which is a very culture shock, because in America, like, everything down here has a lot of sugar and it's very sweet. So it's not a bad thing, but it's just very different, which I appreciate. And they rarely offer condiments or seasoning for any like type of meals. Like, we had a salad at this restaurant in Niš, Serbia, and like they didn't even have salad dressing or anything, or salt and pepper. Like, it was just really different. And they traditionally eat 4-course meals instead of like your traditional 3 to 2-course meal in America. Like, for example, at every restaurant that we went to in Bulgaria or Serbia, they started off with a soup, a Bulgarian stew, a bread, a meat, which was, I think that was pork with steak, and like that's the other type of bread that they have. And the flan, they usually have a dessert at the end of it, which was at Pivo's or Gorka, I believe. Versus in America, they usually hand out bread, and then you give you an appetizer, and then you order whatever you want, or you just get an appetizer and then your meal. Then, how do I describe this? Most of the stores and apartments in Bulgaria have little to no space from each other. Like, in America, if you go down to your traditional suburban neighborhood, you notice like the houses are like spaced out. Everybody has distance from each other. Or if you go to a downtown in a big city in America, like you'll notice the Walmart and the Target are like very far from each other. But it's not like that in Bulgaria. Everything's like compact, like very right next to each other. And I tried to show a picture that illustrated that, but this is the only picture that I took that demonstrated what that looks like down there. And what I have to say about that? Oh, wait. And Bulgarians have a culture honoring their rich historical roots. As you can tell from the other two presentations, that we went to a lot of museums and they talked about their history. And this is the Wax Museum, which was my favorite museum that we went to. And I just think that it shows that they really care about where they come from, like where they started from. And versus shoving it away and trying to bury it, like they take pride in that, which is what we spent most of our time doing, was learning about the history, the culture, the reason why, you know, why certain kingdoms were in operation and why, you know, things are the way they are now versus the way they were back then, during the times of BC. But what does this tell me about their culture? That Bulgaria values their history and their background and where their origin. And they're a country that operates as a tight-knit community, which I could tell from how the lack of space within the building structures and within the store outlets and even in the hotel rooms that we were staying in, like they were very small, which there's no problem with that, but like in America, like we usually have big rooms and big like spaces to live in, but they're not that way. And this third statement, they have a genuine rawness surrounding their culture, meaning like when you go to Bulgaria, you see what you see is what you get. They're not trying to hide who they are. They're not trying to put they're not trying to put on a facade for anybody, for any tourist. Like you see the buildings and how they look. They're not trying to pretty it up for anybody. And I don't know if I should say this, but I'm just gonna throw it out there. Like, they're very big on tobacco usage, and like every room, every store, every place that we went to smelled like tobacco, and they didn't care, and that's okay. I appreciate that. I appreciate that they're real and that they don't care to hide that for anybody. So that's what I mean when they're genuine and real in their rawness. And my overall thoughts about going to Bulgaria is that I'm extremely appreciative to Dr. Yordanova and Dr. Meder for allowing me to be a part of this trip, and Mr. A for sponsoring me to go on this trip. And, you know, this trip was an experience to be had, you know, because this trip helped me accomplish a lot of many firsts in my life. I've never been on a plane until this trip. I've never had a passport. I never went sledding in the Vitosha Mountain, the snowy mountain range. I've never did that before. And yeah, like I was extremely like thankful to be a part of this, and I would do it again 110%. So that's all I have to say, and thank you for your time.
Tell us please about the t-shirt you're wearing.
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention this. Hold up. Okay, so I bought this shirt at a Bulgarian flea market in Sofia, I believe. It's really nice. It's really nice. Another thing about the people down there is that like the people that were in the flea markets are very ambitious and like aggressive when they're trying to sell you things, and they won't take no for an answer. Like you have to run away or else they're just gonna like show you a new thing for you to get and try to like market you to something else. So
do they want you to barter with them?
Explain what you mean by barter.
Like, if you say no, do they lower the price and you say no?
Oh, no. Like
They want full price.
yeah, they want full price. If you don't want something, they'll tell you, oh, you can get this. you can get this right here, or you might like this. Like, they'll give you alternatives. Yeah, pretty much persistent. That describes it.
How many shirts did you buy from them?
Ooh, see, okay. So I actually ended up buying like 4 shirts, not from the same store though, cause I got this in Sophia and I got 3 shirts in Star Segura, I believe. So yeah, I had to buy something to like show that I went there and that, you know, I appreciated the culture while I was down there.
So why I mention it, because this is probably the soccer team jersey or something.
Wait, really?
like that. Yes.
Oh, I didn't know.
One of the soccer team jerseys. That's why I knew exactly what it was.
I only got it because I knew it was like the Bulgarian flag colors. So I wanted something to represent that. So,
Thank you.
no problem.
Sorry guys, I know I'm a little overdressed for this, but I'm on the women's soccer team, and tonight, at the same exact day, same exact time as our athletic banquet. So if I seem in a little bit of a rush, that's probably why. And all these pictures I put in the PowerPoint were pictures that I took while we were on the trip. Okay, so one of my main things about traveling is trying different foods and going to different places, exploring everything. And as you can see, let's see this laser pointer. Over here, that was a kind of strawberry daiquiri that we had when we were, I think it was in Plovdiv, and it was very good. And as I said earlier, each meal was started out with a stew, soup, or some type of bread, as right here. And there's this little spice right here that they put on their bread, and it makes it very delicious. It's a mix of, it could either be oregano, some garlic. It's a bunch of herbal spices that they grow, produce, and then mix it all together. And this right here was actually my favorite meal that we had. And this was in Veliko Tarnovo, and it was kind of chicken. It was kind of like a cordon bleu type meal. And the restaurant that we had this at was actually overlooking the city, and you could see the castle that was on top of the hill, the fortress that was built. And you could plan with your imagination all the other foods that are up there. It was very good. And also desserts. So Bulgaria is one of the main producers of rose oil, and they mainly put that in their cosmetic industry, so in facial creams, facial serums. And so I thought it was very cool when we went to the restaurant and they served us this rose cheesecake. It wasn't a fan of many. I wasn't that huge of a fan, but I actually really liked it. And also, baklava was a huge dessert in very many places, and you could tell there's 3 different forms of baklava right here, down on the bottom left, and also a baklava cheesecake that we had at the Turkish airport. This was my favorite dessert. It was kind of like a Nutella cake that was mixed. If I had to describe the taste, it'd be Nutella and Biscoff kind of mixed together with a little bit of whipped cream consistency. And it was very light and very tasteful. So, as many of you know, we traveled to very many different cities. We started in Sofia and then ended up in Sofia, going to Plovdiv, Veliko Tarnovo, and then we went to Yornova's hometown, where we ended up doing a little bit of community service, picking up trash around the city, which was actually a very big bonding experience for a bunch of us. You could see here in Plovdiv, that was actually one of my top 2 sites that we went to see, and that's actually the Roman Theater. And I could have sat on top of the theater all day and just imagined everything that went on in the city. And it's also overlooking the city as well as some mountains. And this bottom left picture, that was when we went back to Sofia, and that was on top of the mountain. I wish we had more time there because the skiing looked very fun. But since we didn't have enough time, many people went sledding and some others went on a hiking trail. And while we were there in, where was this at? Sofia. One of the prime ministers actually had passed right before we got there, and they were holding a service for him. And it was really cool because we could see the procession and everything, and all the people and that were there just for that experience that we got to be there for. So what I actually picked to do my presentation on was the healthcare and pharmaceuticals in Bulgaria versus America. And one of the main differences is the insurance. So in America you pay for insurance, but in Bulgaria it's actually given to you if you are a citizen, a resident, or you have a status. And the cost in Bulgaria for insurance are actually funded by taxes, donations, and premiums. And what's very interesting is in the US, most of the time your insurance will pay for your pharmaceuticals and your meds, but in Bulgaria, it's actually the highest out-of-pocket expense in all of the European countries. So unless you have a chronic disease or illness that your insurance will cover, you will not have to pay for insurance and your medicines. So here are a few pictures that we had all together as a group, minus some. And I'd like to say that I've been to very many places playing soccer and abroad, but this probably was one of the most impactful experiences that I was able to go on, because it challenged me in a language that I wasn't fluent in, that I did not have more than 3 months to get to know. So being in different places that I had no idea, never been, knowing languages, communicating with people, and also the shopping there. I'm a very avid shopper, as many people know, and going there and seeing the work ethic of the people, the stuff that they create. My favorite thing that I got was literally a wooden spoon that was handcrafted and covered in beeswax, because I thought it was the coolest thing ever. But mainly the people made the whole trip worth it. The people that I went with, and also the people, our trip advisor, Basil. He was a great time. It was very fun. We went out one night and we got to know him a little bit better, but he helped us out tremendously. And also Gary, which is Yordanova's sister, and just how kind and how down to earth and how willing they are to help people that may look lost like I was when I was there. But if I could do it again, I would go back in a heartbeat.
Okay. Hi, I'm Grace, and I focused my presentation on the transportation in Bulgaria because one of my favorite things to look at while traveling is how we travel. And so, in my previous presentation, before we went on this trip, I looked at the 4 main ways of traveling. So you have road, rail, water, air, and found that it's generally quite similar to the US. You have road as your main form of travel, not a ton of water travel, drive on the right side of the road, things like that. But there tends to be a heavier focus on public transportation. And while we were there, I wasn't able to explore most of it, so water, air, and rail, I didn't get to see much of, but we went to the airport, obviously, when we flew in. While walking around Sofia, I was able to go to one of their metros stations and saw lots of trams and trolleys, never got to ride one. But the big thing I was able to observe was road travel. And one of the things Yordanova mentioned before we went was the amount of road signs. There are a lot. everywhere. There's some I took. I got some off of Google Maps, and these are all just real places in Sofia. And as you can tell, a lot of the signs are probably ones you've never seen before, and they're everywhere. This one was on practically every street, and it looks confusing, and a lot of them are confusing. You have this one, which is essentially the inverse of this one, which is different from this one. And this one, while it looks like motorcycles are allowed, it's no motorcycles. But this one means cyclists are allowed and you need to watch out for them. So, yeah. Other differences were like some smaller physical stuff. Medians are smaller, there's basically no trucks. But a big one was that a lot of the cities, the stones are cobblestone. As you can see in this photo, Sofia has this yellow brick road. And as you can see in these, a lot of them aren't paved. And another thing that I noticed that was very uncommon was there's a lot of pedestrian streets. Streets that are made exclusively for walking. And that was the biggest thing that I noticed was the cultural difference between walking and like non-motor travel there versus what you would see here. And a lot of this is because of their history. Cities there are old, like thousands of years old. And for comparison, the US is about 250 years old, and cars are about 150 years old. So obviously these cities were built long before cars were even an idea, and because of that, you get a lot of different layouts than what you're used to seeing in the US. So here you see some of the smaller streets that they have that while you technically can drive on them, I have no idea what you're supposed to do if two cars going in the opposite direction come across each other. You have paths like this, which sort of just lead straight into a staircase. And you have a lot of the pedestrian streets, which, like you can see here in Plovdiv, can be very large. And there's restaurants, shops, as others have mentioned. And these places are packed, like especially during tourist season, in a way that malls in the US, like you almost never see. So here's some other examples of some of the tight turns you might see in some of these cities. And you can see some of the facts and statistics that show this as well. For example, I walked about 20,000 steps per day there. For reference, I've walked about 6,000 steps today. Car ownership is significantly lower. In Bulgaria, about 54% of families own a car. In the US, that is 92%. And over there, about 5.1 own 2 or more cars, while here, 22% of families own 3 or more cars. Gas prices reflect this. Gas is significantly more expensive over there. And you can see this also in public transportation. Sofia, about 63% of people use public transportation. In Dallas, Texas, which is a similar size and population, only about 4% use public transportation. And that obviously affects how much people are going to be walking or using non-motor transportation. So while there is a very similar broad structure to transportation there, there's a lot less personal travel than you would see here. Because while almost everyone has a car here and you have to drive places because that's how all of our cities are built, over there it's much more convenient to walk to a lot of places, and a lot of places are built for that type of thing. And that was really eye-opening, and it was something I wish we had more of here, because walking around and being able to just go wherever you want without having to drive everywhere and deal with a car is super fun and convenient. And I was glad I was able to go on this trip and experience that type of thing. So thank you for listening, and if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask. Well, thank you for your time.
My name's Michaela, and my project was on the history behind the ruins of Bulgaria. Our first stop was Sofia. It is the capital of Bulgaria, and it has been since 1879. Here you can see there is an ancient Roman city underneath Sofia. The city is approximately 7,000 years old. The Roman city here was discovered when the metro was being built in 2010, and it was discovered. There were some tablets that were found previously to this discovery that hinted towards an amphitheater underground. They have found it, but unfortunately only a fourth of that has been uncovered. It was originally called Serdica. It was established by the Thracians. And then next we went to Niš, Serbia. It was built in 1809. And here you can see the Skull Tower. And in the Skull Tower was built because there was a war between the Turkish and the Serbians for independence. The Turkish were fighting the Serbians, and the Serbian leader basically did a suicide mission where he exploded himself and the remaining Serbian soldiers, as well as the surrounding Turkish soldiers. This angered the Turkish Empire, and the commander of the Turkish Empire took the bodies of the Serbian soldiers and dismembered them and put their heads in this tower, with the commander's head being on the top. Currently, the commander's head is displayed separately. Originally, there were 958 skulls, but as you can see, some have been removed to give proper burials and funerals to, and only 58 remain. Here is Mediana. Niš is also the birthplace of Constantine. Here you can see in the center of this room, there used to be a fountain there with running water. So it was always running, so it would cover the conversations that Constantine was having with other leaders. There he would discuss state affairs, and they had a heated water system, which was an invention of the time. And then also up here, there was mosaics throughout this little village, and there was depictions of Medusa and the god of water. This was Plovdiv. Plovdiv was my favorite city. Here is the stadium of Philippopolis. It's underneath the main street in Plovdiv. Some businesses have decided to preserve what is under their business, and others have decided not to. This right here is actually an image underneath the H&M department store on the street. There they would have games with running, sporting, boxing, etc. And then this right here is the amphitheater of Philippopolis. It was actually mistakenly discovered. They were trying to expand some roads in the 1980s, and the construction site fell through, and they found this. It was originally covered up because Christianity was ruling Europe at the time, and because of its mentions of Greek mythology, they wanted to cover it up. And it's not pictured, but they also slashed off the heads of some of the statues that were found there. Last, we had Veliko Tarnovo. It's known as the medieval capital. It was originally built in the 5th and 7th century AD, and then rebuilt in the 8th and 10th centuries, and then finally in the 12th century. It was the second capital, it was the capital of the second Bulgarian state from 1185 to the 1390s, when the Ottoman Empire took over and burned the city. And in 1877, Veliko Tarnovo was able to gain its independence with the help of the Russians. It is also known for 2 of the major uprisings against the Ottoman Empire. Here are some images from our trip. That picture right there is inside of a church in Sofia. This is where we took pictures with the doves on the, they had a lot of activities going on in the streets of Sofia. This picture I was really interested in. It's in a candy shop, and I can't remember. There was one in Sofia and then another one in another city. I can't remember. Plovdiv? Yeah. I think this one was in Sofia, I believe. And then these are 2 more images from the Philippopolis amphitheater. And then here is the cathedral of Sofia. Unfortunately, we weren't allowed to take pictures at the time. And what was really cool was, again, like Jackie said, before we got there, the head of the church had passed away, and we were able to see how they really valued their religion and their leadership. And then also here is an ancient Muslim mosque. I'd like to thank GSW's experimental learning program for funding our trip. And then I'd really love to thank Dr. Medor and Dr. Yordanova for organizing and making this trip possible. It was truly an amazing experience. And thank you, Dr. Yordanova, for sharing your culture with us.
Hi, my name is Kendall Slow. I did my project based on how progressive or conservative is Bulgaria based off of self-expression. So self-expression is like a form of showing who you are without verbally communicating it. It's a way to express yourself freely, ability to show your true identity, find people you can relate to, and it's good for your mental health. These are different forms of self-expression: piercings, tattoos, dyed hair, hairstyles, fashion, makeup, artwork, photography, etc. The goal of this project was basically to find like different people in Bulgaria that like showcase forms of self-expression. I was going to do this by like taking pictures of different people, and that would help me determine if like Bulgaria was like progressive or conservative. I was basically going to do it based off of how many people I seen with tattoos or like dyed hair, stuff like that. So here in America, as you know, we're very progressive. Like you see different people in this room. We all have different hairstyles, different stuff like that. In Bulgaria, I didn't find much information based off of like self-expression, because I mean, that's a weird topic to look up. But yeah, so I was just going to find that out when we went there. In America, 36% of Americans have body piercings that aren't in their like ears. 32% have at least one tattoo. In Bulgaria, 19% of Bulgarians have had tattoos. So after the trip, unfortunately, I didn't get much pictures of tattoos because it was kind of cold. Everyone was like bundled up. I was going to originally ask people like how their parents feel about their form of self-expression, but I couldn't ask anyone. I didn't know much Bulgarian, and it seemed like everyone was kind of doing their own thing, and I didn't want to bother anyone. Yeah. So here, there were so many people with like dyed hair. I was, to my surprise, I didn't expect to see that. Red was a popular color. And there was a wig shop, and I thought that was just something I should take a picture of. A lot of people have piercings too. These are just the few that I got. This guy down here had an eyebrow piercing. This girl had a septum and a nostril piercing. This lady, this is also our tour guide. She had a nose piercing and like piercings going up her ear. And I didn't mention that I was gonna do graffiti as one of my, I guess, ways to determine. But I'm gonna say it in the next slide. Here, graffiti was actually a great method of determining self-expression because like most graffiti is people's label, and I guess that can like showcase who they are as a person. Most people who live there don't like the graffiti because of course it's vandalizing. But yeah, I determined that Bulgaria isn't as conservative as I thought it was because, I mean, as you saw, so many people have dyed hair, people dress up all the time, stuff like that. The reason I did this project is because I love to self-express. It helped me find who I was as a person. Photography is really important to me, stuff like that. And this project was to like show people who are like skeptical about going to Bulgaria, who like to self-express, and show them like, okay, it's an okay country to go to. No one's gonna judge you or nothing like that. And that's it. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Esther Kulabali, and while in Bulgaria, I was trying to study basically how diverse it was as compared to the U.S., because here we have a lot of different cultures and, foods and things of that nature. In the U.S., we're basically a melting pot, if you will. We're comprised of many different cultures and ethnicities. 1 out of 7 U.S. residents are immigrants, while 1 out of 8 are native-born with at least one parent being of an immigrant, like descent or something like that. I kind of derive this as the American dream, probably from maybe immigrants believing that there would be a better life to lead in the States. So maybe that's why they probably immigrated over here and are here now. In the U.S., regarding entertainment, food, and languages, we're very diverse. For example, telenovelas in the U.S. are an average 5.7 million viewers a week, which is basically like Latin, like soap operas or Latin television that we have here. K-drama viewership in the U.S. is up 200% between 2019 and 2021. In food, 69.2% of Americans want ethnic foods in their primary grocery stores like Whole Foods, Walmart, Kroger's, things of that nature. And then regarding languages, we're actually the second largest population of Spanish speakers here. In Bulgaria, I expected a lot of diversity from like neighboring European countries as they're part of the Balkan Peninsula, like Greece, Romania, Serbia, which we visited. But I was actually surprised that there was much English and like Italian even and things of that nature. In Bulgaria, there's a couple languages that are spoken. 12% of the population speaks English, 9% speaks Russian, 4% speaks Turkish, and 3% speak German. While in Bulgaria, for food, all the way to the left, this was basically what I called our meat pot. We kind of shared it together, we kind of ate out of it together. It had sausage, lots of vegetables, I think some potatoes as well. Then as everyone said, there's lots of soups, lots of rich breads there. And in the middle is the famous rose cheesecake that we had. I enjoyed it, I ate the whole thing. But it was rose inspired and I thought it was really tasty. And then up here we have flan for food. This is just some more food here. To the left, it looks like it would be ice cream, but it was actually some type of like cake that we had. At the bottom is lentil soup, and then here is this like platter of like meats that we had. It was liver, pork, chicken, anything you wanted, it was on that platter. It was really tasty as well. Some more food here. This was just seen walking around. Basically, it had like burgers, pizza, and Chinese food. I thought that was really shocking, just because in Bulgaria you wouldn't expect to see Chinese food, but there was like that option as well if you wanted it. And then this is just a like candy bar that they had. I thought it was pretty interesting that the facts and like the nutritional facts and stuff was in English because it was bought in Bulgaria. So I thought that was kind of neat how like we could also understand it even though we did learn a little Bulgarian before going. And in the middle was basically a Chipotle bowl. We had, inside it was meats, vegetables, anything you wanted, it was in there as well. It was really tasty. This is some more food. We visited this place called Happy. They had like Hispanic and Latin foods there, so guacamole, enchiladas. They also had burgers and things of that nature. This is just a bigger picture of that menu, but as you can see, it was very, very diverse, and anyone who wanted anything, you could get it there. In terms of language, there was some Italian, as you can see on the far left, some English, Happy Socks, some Bulgarian, and then here it's not as clear as I'd love it to be, but you can see like the menu was in Bulgarian, and then towards the right it actually had an English translation, so it was a little easier for tourists who could like, you know, if you didn't speak Bulgarian, you could still order something. Some more language here, you see American cheesesteak, and this is actually a boba place right here, and I think we were in Plovdiv at this point. Some more language here, some more Italian, and then in the middle we're actually on Vitusha Mountain. It was just basically saying tea, coffee, beer, snacks. If you wanted something warm because it was pretty cold, you couldn't access that there. So if you didn't speak Bulgarian again, you could kind of, you know, figure out your way. And then here we have an I Heart Gelato shop if you wanted to get some dessert as well. Some more language here. We had a brunch menu that had avocado toast. They had French toast. They had some French cuisine as well. And then just some more ice cream shops and things of that nature. And then for entertainment, there was much graffiti, but not too much. And we visited a museum in Serbia. So to the left, you see Serbian, and then to the right, you see English, the English translation as well. I thought that was pretty neat because I could still understand what the monuments were like trying to get across. And then in the middle, this is actually from our TV in Sofia. I thought it was pretty neat that we had different channels than we have in the States here, but they were all in English, so you could still kind of figure out, okay, what is it that I kind of want to watch? And something that we enjoyed in our room was The Voice. They had a lot of different like music from all over. Like they had Tyla, she's a South African singer. They had Kanye West. They had so many different artists from all over and Bulgarian singers as well. So some entertainment, as I said, graffiti. This is actually still on Vitusha Mountain. You had a snowboarding school that we could attend if we wanted to. You could do the hiking trail, or you could, I think we took some rafters and we kind of sled down the mountain. Yeah, down the mountain. And this is some more graffiti here. As you can tell, I love graffiti. I think it's very expressive and things. And yeah, thank you, everyone.
PowerPoint presentation. All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is KJ Daniels. This is my second study abroad trip that I've been on. I was able to attend the Nepal study abroad trip in the summer of 2022. But for Bulgaria, the main thing that I wanted to study was kind of the history and religion of Bulgaria and see how that affected the people. So kind of to just give you a brief kind of walkthrough of the history. So mainly Bulgaria started as an empire built up of Slavic people that mainly came and congregated in the area of Bulgaria. And then afterwards, the Ottomans came in and invaded Bulgaria, and eventually for about 5 centuries, they took over. And then Obviously, World War II came, and then Bulgaria was affected by socialism. And then afterwards, we have kind of what we experienced on the trip, which, their actual religion and culture now. So briefly, I mainly want to talk about this because, again, we're talking about the people and how their culture and history affected them. So firstly, I just want to emphasize how important the church was to the Bulgarian people, because the church was actually a key portion in recording and retaining the Bulgarian language, which is Cyrillic. And a lot of these documents were important because when the Ottomans came in and attacked, the remaining churches that weren't attacked from the Ottomans actually held a lot of documents that preserved Bulgarian literature and culture. And so mainly before this point, religion was a very key point to the Bulgarian people. And after kind of the communists affected Bulgaria, a lot of the main common people's perspective of religion had lowered, and they mainly kind of leaned towards socialist or free thinking. But even still, some of the actual people, such as this man, George Dimitrov, he was a Bulgarian communist, and while he still worked towards separating the church and state, he even stated how important the church was at preserving Bulgarian history in a speech in 1946. So now mainly I want to get to the actual portion that we experienced during the trip, as this picture over towards the left is a depiction of the Bulgarian royal family in Veliko Tarnovo. So as you can see towards the left, this is a large fortress in Plovdiv, and up at the very top, there is a large church that isn't active now, but used to mainly be where the royal family would stay in. And so also this city, Veliko Tarnovo, it's known as the city of Tsars, and Tsar is just the Bulgarian word for king, so it's the city of kings. And so this structure over to the right, this was the actual very top of that large fortress in Veliko Tarnovo, and it's called the Patriarchal Cathedral of Holy Ascension. And inside of it, there was a lot of artistic depictions that you'll see on the next slide. And as well, this other religious building over here to the left, it is just St. Louis Cathedral. And this was while we were in Plovdiv. But this image to the right specifically, this is one of the depictions that was on the church up at the top of Veliko Tarnovo that I mentioned. And this little golden cross-bearing orb here, otherwise known as a globus cruciger, was depicted on one of the walls. And a lot of what you may have seen from some of the other presentations, a lot of the mosaics that were in a lot of the basilicas, a lot of the museums that had them, they would have small little infographics and depictions of the symbols and why they were put up. Because this specific one is called Solomon's Knot, and it mainly refers to kind of the beauty and eternity of life, and that's why what actually is depicted is a knot, because it's kind of supposed to represent life ongoing throughout the generations. And so this is an area in one of the basilicas that was used for baptism. So as you can see more clearly in this picture to the left, you would kind of actually walk down into this small little area, and this is where you would be baptized. And a lot of the areas of basilicas were specifically used for some purpose, so for either baptism like for this, or for incense offering. And so this is a depiction in Plovdiv of a Roman stadium that typically held around 5,000 people. And these ruins were discovered all over the city. So in this picture to the left, you can kind of see this little shopping market, and then out down towards where I was actually standing and took the picture from, you then see some of these ruins of this very large structure. And one thing that nobody has actually mentioned yet, I don't have the picture of it in this slide, in this presentation, but when we actually visited the very highest area of Plovdiv, this large theater that we saw, a lot of the plays that were done there, one kind of small fun facts, for their plays where they had depictions of death, what they would do is they would actually take criminals from the city and use them in the plays to have realistic, actual depictions of death, which is very interesting, but an effective idea if they actually wanted to display it. So, and the main reason I wanted to study these things is just because I'm interested in a lot of how kind of people think about things, how they go about their day to day, and just what influences them. And so a lot of the Bulgarian people, they were very proud of their history, as you've heard from other presenters. And I mainly just wanted to kind of see and experience that, because two of our tour guides, the main ones that I'm going to reference, Roman, who was our tour guide in Veliko Tarnovo, kind of that city with the large fortress I mentioned, he was an archaeologist, and he talked to us a lot about just the structure of how well that fortress was at defending Bulgaria, and as I believe Michaela mentioned before, just using it to fight back against the Ottomans. The people were just very proud of the history and the land they had, and I'm just very glad that I was able to attend the trip, and I was even able to attend this trip with my sister. So I mainly want to thank Dr. Yordanova and Dr. Metter for actually leading this trip. And I also do want to mention that Mr. Irvin Anderson, he actually paid for a couple of us students to attend the trip, because he paid for me, Zai, and Temple. But yeah, if anybody has any questions, please ask me. You can probably ask me afterwards. We have a couple more presenters. But yeah, thank you for your time.
Hello everyone, my name is Kennedy Daniels, and my presentation is about Bulgarian dance, like just the history of it, because for this presentation it was a little bit more difficult to find examples on the trip of like these particular dances, so most of it is just going to be a brief history and also a little bit of our experience. I mainly wanted to do this topic just because I'm personally interested in dancing. I took dance classes for 6 years, and it's just different cultures, different types of dance is just something that I am personally interested in. So unfortunately, there aren't a lot of records about specific dances that are performed in early history. From books and transcript, we do know that like chain type dances, which include like holding on to another person or just being in line, were popular. And we know this from writings from religious leaders who actually looked down upon dance. And lots of churches and monasteries have depictions of dance. Specifically, the Rila Monastery in southwest Bulgaria has paintings that depict different types of dance. Under Turkish rule, people became a lot more conscious of preserving their history when it came to dance. So, like I said, those monasteries became places for people to celebrate culture. So when it comes to actual records, travelers on the way to Constantinople in certain records have made vague references to certain dances, but a specific one that we have is one from French scientist, it's a French name, Ami Bouy, I'm not sure I say his name, who created a report in the early 19th century that recorded a lot of different types of dances. Also, just each dance is different as it changes just as it goes from generation to generation. That's it. So one of the main dances that came up in my research was the Toro. I might not be pronouncing that right, but it's a community dance, and each specific village will have a different dance, so it doesn't just refer to a single type of dance. And often the names of the dance will include where they're from or certain characteristics of the dance, which is just something that I found interesting. How this dance actually performed, which you'll see in a short video that I took while we were on the trip, is that these dances are often, we said, in a line with dancers either holding hands with their hands on each other's shoulders. There's lots of in and out motions, and with the music, it's often what we consider, at least Western culture, just like odd time signatures. They're just a little bit harder to follow, but that look really good when you see people performing it. When it comes to dances in celebration, they can be done just like during weddings, and could be connected to certain rituals and holidays, which is also something that I found interesting. And like I said, there wasn't a lot for me to put in my actual experience on the trip, so I do have a short video of I'm not sure how to make it play. I didn't play it. So there we go. Through sound. Okay.
Pay attention, I'm trying to teach them.
Yes, she was.
Learn how to.
And it was very late, and this was after a service day, and we had all eaten at traditional food at in Starzagor, is that right? And like I said, everyone was very. We weren't the best at it, but it was very fun. So just overall, even though I didn't get to see a lot of what I did my presentation on in the trip, I honestly learned a lot, and I think developed a lot as a person on the trip. I'm not very good at talking or being. I'm just a very anxious person, and just going on that, being a completely different place and all these different sites, it just really helps you build yourself as a person and be like, hey, if I can go through this, there's lots of other things I can do. So those are my sources, and thank you for listening.
All right, so I did my project on Bulgarian architecture, but mainly the difference between traditional Bulgarian architecture and their, I guess, brutalist style architecture. I knew that Bulgaria was on was a satellite state of the Soviet Union, so I know Bulgaria got that type of brutalist style architecture, and I kind of want to see the comparison. So traditional Bulgarian architecture consists of bright and colorful houses, natural materials such as stone, woods, and clays, Urca windows, which are those, square wooden style type of windows, steep roofs, thick walls, and also consists of Neo-Byzantine style. This is a school in Plovdiv. As you can see, we got the square roof windows, tall columns, very colorful. This is a fine art building. It used to be a girls' high school until 1881 until it switched. You still got the Urca windows, tall columns. This is the Cathedral of St. Louis. This architecture combines the neoclassical neoborg with intricate stone carving and prominent bell towers. We was not able to go in there because they were closed, but as you can see, they have bell towers. Very vibrant colors, very out there, really. This was church, St. Alexander Cathedral. The marble came from Munich. The metal was sourced in Berlin, manufactured in Vienna, and the mosaics journeyed all the way from Venice. The interior consists of intricate mosaics and wall paintings. When we went to the church, we weren't able to get a picture because they had a service, but I was able to find this picture online. This is what it looks like. As you can see, it has a lot of gold, a lot of wall painting, very beautiful mosaics. Very intricate carving. This is the Cathedral of St. Nelly. This is the cathedral belonged to the Patriarchy of the Eastern Christian Orthodox Church. I forgot what it was. This is the interior of the fire. You can see we got wall paintings, Urca windows. As you see the iron, the domes. I see more wall paintings. This is the dude that died. We actually saw a service for him. We weren't allowed in his main church because of this is part of the Old Town. It's one of Europe's oldest towns, built during the Bulgarian revival period from 1762, 1878. Had houses built like fortresses. Every house had like its own unique thing to it, whether it came from the owner or it was just, I guess, the house's name. Many traditional houses are bigger than these modern day houses, so it's really surprising me. These are known as gossip chambers. It's usually used for like people to, sit out and listen to the outside world, or they, I believe it's also used for like young women to talk to people in the outside world, if I remember. This is the city wall or interior of it. As we had the east gate of the city, narrow walls to stop anybody coming to invade. These are some of the buildings and interior buildings of the city. So we got a bell tower, and then you can see the city very vibrant, a lot of beautiful colors. Very different from there, like this gives you like a little history breakdown of the city. The very bottom bricks were built by the Thracians in 10,000 BC. The huge bricks were placed by the Roman area. At the top layer of the nice stone and red bricks were constructed by the Byzantine. Over in that area, gives an idea of this little history. This is a photo of the old town. And here's our Brutalist architecture. Brutalist architecture is defined as rough and French concrete surfaces, minimal decorative elements, real ugly to look at, block heavy appearance, unusual shapes, use of modern architecture such as steel, glass, stone, and gatherings. This is an inter-hotel and Village Carnival. Construction began in 1967 but wasn't completed until 1981. Renovations happened in 2000s, but from 2014 to 2020, various companies tried to sell the hotel. When I visited there, at the bottom, they have like a little restaurant that's open, but that's about it. Hotel's still closed. Here's what the outskirts of the room look like. Compared to the photo that I saw, that I used in my other presentation, it was very much gray, broken, brutalist, ugly, but here, when we got there, they repainted it. Here's a photo from that restaurant we began to build. Here's another example of a brutalist architecture. These are a lot of buildings like this in Serbia and Bulgaria had very ugly hotels, bulky buildings, a lot of concrete, not very pretty to look at. A lot of them were built during the Soviet era, so it's quite nice. And then this was a National Palace of Culture. It was inaugurated in 1981 on the occasion of the 13,000th anniversary of the founding of the Bulgarian state. This is Buddhist architecture, but compared to all the other Buddhist ones, it's not very ugly. I actually like it compared to all the other ones. Bulgaria.
Well, let's thank our speakers one more time. And I know there is not much time, but if you have any questions, the people that are still here, they can answer some of your questions. Yes.
What was the money there and what was the exchange rate compared to America?
No, $1 so almost 2 to 1. $1 you get almost 2 Bulgarian lira.
Is that LED?
Yes. Any other questions? I love it. Well, it depends if you like raw tomatoes or cucumbers. Yeah. Well,
But it was also the first time I started.
well, I think it took them a little bit to get used to the different type of fruits, and then the students were able to choose what they like and what they don't like. But they tried a lot of different stuff, and I would say from all the presentations, they captured the main points. Of course, there were a lot more things that we saw and they experienced when you can present it for an hour. We were aiming for an hour, but an hour and a half. All I hope is that they really had a good time and they brought their experience by visiting another country. Yes.
I never got from one sleep. 4 hours at most.
I slept 8 hours better than that.
Yes, there is a way to do it, and I tried to tell them, you have to go there older, you're very tired, you stay the first night up as late as you can, and then you get up in the morning, and that's yeah, you're going to be tired, but it's easier. I never have problems with the jet lag, because, I don't know, I know how to do it. And you kind of force yourself to be tired the first day or two, and then it gets easier. Yeah, I don't know what was their experience. Yes.
Did y'all use public transportation a lot to get around, or like how did y'all just car along? What? Oh, nice.
There was one moment where I used taxi. That was. And they didn't stop until I pulled out a dollar bill. Like it was hard to get them to stop for me.
Really?
Yeah.
Taxi free, or just did it cost them like the US?
Yeah, it cost me.
Oh, yeah.
And they talked about it.
How did you tell them where you wanted to go?
Because my roommate RJ, he had a translator app, and he just like showed them like when he texted out the text, yeah, pretty much in Bulgarian.
Walking is the best so you can see the malls, but of course, if you have to go, some things are too big city, the capital, if you have to go from one side to the other, it's gonna take you many hours to walk. You would take public transportation, but if you want to stay in downtown and see the most important architectural, important places, you walk around. That's the best way to see town.
It's also the thing that they want is
Well, yeah, driving is, the drivers are a little more aggressive, they're not patient, they might not really follow the rules. But that's mostly in all of the other countries, yes.
So how long was the plane ride?
Well, this, yeah, go ahead. Tell me. the airport, and by the time we get to the hotel, it was about 10 minutes. The flight was 11 hours because it was directly Atlanta, Istanbul. Usually, most of the flights are Atlanta, somewhere on the west part of Europe, like either London, Paris, and then you take another 2 or 3 hour flight. But this was a direct flight to Istanbul and then another literally like 45-minute flight from Istanbul to Bulgaria. So it was a longer flight, but overall the number of hours that we fly is the same. We just might do it in different portions.
I was real on the plane.
It was very good. Very good.
So let me tell you, I think there were people like me, 2, 3 people that would like anything they needed. I have no problem with any kind of food. He ate everything and liked it and enjoyed it. There were people that did not like a lot of stuff or were very reserved to try. It just depends on the person really. The food was not bad on the airplane by any means. Just was different, very typical like Bulgarian, Turkish food, Eastern European food, and not like what you get in here.
So when we're talking about like the apple juice and lime juice, anything like no sugar and all that, I'm diabetic, so I had to get used to all that. So did y'all get used to like the flavor and not being added? I was wondering if y'all ever got used to it. Orange juice.
Well, so also, we had, like Dr. Miller said, a cheap hotel juice. That's not what you get when you go.
Traditional Bulgarian juice.
Yes. Yeah, it wasn't the best quality juice at all, but me and Dr. Miller, we like the cherry juice in the airplane. So I actually asked the stewardess if I can have a bottle of it, and I do have the bottle. Yes. Because you don't get much of cherry juice here, and I really like it. Any other questions? If not, let's thank our speakers